let's put it in front of customers and do market research. We did. Guess what happened? It bombed.
Okay.
It bombed.
I was going to say, I thought I was going to do really well.
No, it bombed.
It didn't. Okay. Yeah.
Now, it looks like they worked on this yesterday and brought it in today. That's the last thing you want from an agency.
Right. I have Mark Joseph with me, who is a former director of marketing, but is currently consulting with other companies, helping them find new agencies, among other things. Mark, thanks for being here.
Thanks, Matt, for having me. I look forward to our conversation today.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about agencies and what goes into finding them for companies. You have a lot of experience from your whole career on the in-house side, but also now consulting. And because you don't work for those big companies anymore directly, you can kind of say whatever you want, right? It's like it's free reign.
Within reason.
Okay.
Within reason.
So we can get all the goods.
Yes, you can get it. We can get all the goods today.
We'll take what we can get. So, and obviously, selfishly, we're an agency.
Right.
So I want to walk away from this conversation thinking, you know what? I feel like I can better show up to these conversations. So maybe I can be the test there to see if I can do that.
And then also, it will be a learning lesson for what you need to do to keep the clients.
Yes. Retention.
Right. Retention is key. Because it costs money and time to change an agency.
Yeah. Yep. And vice versa, right? So it's about better partnerships. So I guess why is finding an agency so hard that they would need to hire somebody like yourself to go about doing that?
The first thing, it's really a time commitment.
Yeah.
Understanding what the client needs, and oftentimes they really don't understand exactly all the things that they need. Sometimes you just have a feeling it's time to make a change.
Okay.
So it's really zoning in on what are your pain points, what's not working today, and what do you feel will be better on the other side with another agency. And kind of understanding those things and putting them in somewhat of an order of priority. And then it's looking at other agencies who might offer the similar services or beyond, or maybe even narrower sometimes. And it's pulling a list together of those people, creating a profile, sharing it with the client. So it's doing a lot of the grunt work that the client just doesn't have time to do, right? A million other things my day takes.
Right.
I don't have time for this side job.
And it's a special project too. So it's not like they necessarily have like the staff to go do this all day long.
Correct.
They're doing this new thing that they might do every like 5 years-ish, or is there, I mean, it depends on what you're doing too, because we're talking about there's big agencies that are agencies of record, and there's agencies like ours that are way more niche.
Right. I'll tell you, agencies of record are the biggest undertaking to make the change.
Yeah.
In my career, I had one agency of record. My first job, when I stepped into the lead of marketing communications, 25-year relationship with an agency.
That was your like first day?
Yes.
Here you go?
Yep.
Really?
Yep. Find a
like
new agency.
At least the second day or third day kind of a thing.
They were really dated in what they were doing, and the company I worked for,
agency was.
They were. Okay. And the company put up with it for a really long time for some reason. Yeah. And then it was time to find a new agency. Yeah. So we did.
And this is like a big agency of record type thing?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Now, smaller ones can happen more frequently. There's less in it for the client, there's less in it for the agency. But just think of if you, Matt, got dropped by your largest account, how much would that hurt you? And what's the effort you have to put forward to keep that account happy?
It would hurt really bad. You're putting me on the hot spot. And then, the effort really is the day in, day out, continual, are we living by our standards of service? Are we showing up and bringing the best creative ideas? Are we helping and at the end of the day, are we actually helping the client like achieve that result that we sort of agreed on in the first place? So
right.
There's a lot obviously that goes into it every single day. Today, you're consulting, you're helping big companies find that new agency. I guess, can you give me an example of what they're looking for and what that process looks like?
Sure. So a recent client I worked with contacted me and said, we have an agency. We've been working with them for 5 years, and they're just kind of okay. We have decent service. They don't charge us outrageous fees for what they do, but essentially they're an order taker, and they're not helping us with any strategy. And The execution is meh. It's okay.
Yeah.
It's nothing great.
Had this been a long relationship?
It was about 5 years.
Okay.
And I said, have you talked to the agency? Have you tried to work through things? Have you said, we're asking for this, we're not getting it?
Right.
Have you made efforts? Like any relationship, are
Yeah.
you willing to put the effort both ways? And the comment was, it's not really worth the effort. We just need to find a new agency.
Like they decided this a long time ago and it's going to happen.
And this director of marketing, his CEO said, find a new agency.
Yeah.
As well. Kind of like my first
Right.
company example. So what we did is I met with him and said, what are the things that are most important? What are you trying to do year 1, year 3, year 5, beyond? Again, if you're going to find a new agency and they're going to be doing big business for you, invest the time, right? Because it's a lot of work, and it turned out to be a lot of work. End to end, we did the process in 4 months, and we brought a new agency.
Okay. Is that what you expected? Is that what you planned on? Or
That's what they had a deadline, and I
Okay.
said, in order to achieve the deadline, here are the steps we need to take and what we need to do. So it was really down to they needed a overall marketing strategy, help with that.
Yeah.
They needed a brand refresh because they thought it's tired looking. They needed definitely an activation plan to reach their audiences. They wanted to go from an analog to a digital, right? So everybody wants to just shove out information digitally, but there's still a lot of customers out there that want paper,
Yeah.
right? So how do you satisfy that need? And then it was really the tactical execution of a lot of the day-to-day marketing executions that they had. So they kind of had a broad need, right? It wasn't just, hey, help us with a brand refresh and, hire one agency, finish with them, and now your other agency can take over from there.
Right.
So, that's one of the things. And in that conversation with this person, this client, I said, you can have other agencies coexist with this agency.
Sure.
You can still have a video production. If you want to have a separate PR social firm, you can do that. A digital firm, you can do that. It's just how you manage that process.
Yeah.
And so far, I will say they're very happy with the results that they have with the new agency, and I'm looking forward to seeing, the creative that comes out of it.
Got it. So you had a timeline, 4 months. That's one of the criteria. What are some of the other criteria? I guess they had the services that they need.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you know if it's what if they're 2 of them do the same services and 2 of them, what I'm saying? How do you actually decide which one's the right fit?
Do you know what one of the interesting things, and it's a great question that you ask, because what is it going to be like to deal with these people? They're essentially an extension of you and your marketing department.
So culturally.
Culturally, will they fit? When I ask a question, how quickly do I get an answer? Is it the right answer? Is it a good answer? Is it believable?
Right.
Will they stand up for it? And it came to a sort of a gut feel.
Yeah.
And is this the right firm for us to work with?
Right.
Do we feel comfortable investing this amount of money to work with these people? And they came to that decision.
And how many did you compare against?
So we started with close to 20.
It's a lot.
And narrowed it down to 6.
Yeah.
And then there were 4 contenders at the end.
And is it a RFP situation where you ask these people to respond, or is it just they already have relationships somehow and they show up, or kind of how do you find the right agency?
So my advice is personal recommendations are great.
Yeah.
Looking at lists, if you're in the B2B space or B2C to B
industry
space,
specific.
Look at agencies. And I kind of joke with people. I'm like, you see someone that's an advertiser, find out who their agency is if you really like the creative, if you like what they've done. Do they do a really effective job in promoting your brand?
Yeah.
That's going to drive results. That's the key. So it was somewhat of a large pool. We brought it down smaller and smaller. And the company that really surfaced did a few things. Think of someone in an Olympic sport at the last minute just does something that amazes, that makes them win. And that's what this agency did. We put together a form that we rated all of the agencies, and we rated them equally.
Like a scorecard?
We created a scorecard. And the biggest thing was, does the agency have the resources, skill, talent to do what it is that we need? Number 1.
Yeah.
Number 2, what's it going to be like to work with these people?
Okay.
Culturally, will they fit with us? Will they mesh? Will they merge?
That's a feeling. That's kind of a feeling. How are the interactions, and how does everybody like these people? Yeah.
How long are they in business? How many employees do they have?
So just capacity too, and that sort of thing. Okay.
We did check references.
Okay.
To make sure. We met with some of their clients just to make sure that, is what they said true, which helped. And I will say that you get the budget and what things are going to cost, which you can do a comparison across companies because we asked for similar things.
Yeah.
You can say, are we getting the value for the marketing spend we're going to invest with you? That's also very, very important, right? So my first company, I said, when we made that big change, the company was shocked that all of a sudden our marketing spend was going to go up. And the reality is you're going to make a change. You're asking for, big agency to big agency, and they want money. And the new one's going to want money as well because they want to make a profit. And I always say, you can make money, just don't make too much money. We don't need you to get rich off of our account. Treat us fairly. Right? Give us value for the services that you're offering. So really it came down to when we looked at all those things and you sum them up, and, were the reasons there? Was it validated? Did we meet it? Now, some larger CMOs in this position, they may get a lot of pressure internally. And is it a sourcing situation where you're going to grind a company through some detailed RFP to cost everything out, and it's strictly financial driven?
Yeah.
You're not going to make the best choice on the relationship.
And I can share that I've been through that experience. I mean, we went through an RFP, and we've gone through very, very few RFPs, and we aren't the big agency of record. We're this niche specialist. When it comes to creative content, video, there are RFPs out there. And so we had a current client, had us go through that. And the only people in the room were the procurement people. And the only thing we talked about was, what is the price of this type of thing, from messaging to strategy to halfway through the process. You just know that this is like not good for the client even. I mean, they don't know what they're going to be getting. They just know that they're going to get the cheapest option if that's all that they're weighing off of. Having the right people in the room, I think, is important. Like, you're a consultant, so you're actually a marketing person.
Right.
You're helping weigh these pros and cons.
I understand the pain, right? I understand that pain on that side. Absolutely.
One thing that you need to make sure you do is have the right people help you make this decision.
Correct.
Because it's going to affect you for the next, like you said, 5 years, or hopefully longer if it's a good fit.
So CMOs, fight your way through that process and make sure it's your decision and not strictly a financial decision.
Yeah,
Moral
for
of
sure.
the story. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, all right, so clear criteria, clear way of scoring. Do you have any other stories of working with agencies, what to do, what not to do?
So on the in-house experience, the what not to do's are probably more memorable than the what to do's.
Yeah, isn't that funny how that stands with you? Yeah.
But I will give you the what to do. I'll give you that one.
Okay.
I'll give you that one first. So I had the great experience of working with some exceptional account people to not so exceptional.
On the agency side.
On the agency side. And, whether it's a large firm, small firm, good people you can identify, and I can see that quickly who's going to be the winners. So I had in one situation, like really, really good account management experience was the account director in an account soup kind of shadowed me on a lot of meetings.
Okay.
And they would come to the meetings, they would offer suggestions, they would have an idea, almost like they were sitting as one of my marketing people with at the table, and great contributors. So like every day they came in, I thought they're worth every bit we're getting charged for them, right?
Yeah.
They would come out of the meetings, we would get a summary of what happened, action items, who's doing what, even if it wasn't like their little world of what it was in the total picture we were doing. I was just always really impressed that they took the initiative to really understand our business, what we were trying to accomplish, and what's going to move the needle for us. So they did a great job with that. I had to remind one of my Marcom managers who was there, and I'm like, a lot of that work is your job, not theirs. But, it was a harmonious relationship. It worked. And I found, quite a few times they were creating strategy decks for us that we should have been created. It helped, right? Did they get everything right? No. But was it a great start? Absolutely.
Yeah. So the account people showing up, digging in, getting integrated into your team.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would that made the world of difference. And the one thing that I'll say, and Matt, you do this exceptionally, is most times the company client inside has difficulty articulating what they're trying to communicate or what's the best way to get this message across. Or we think it's this big message and then here's the supporting points for it. You come in or one of your people and you listen kind of and you sit back and you go, that doesn't really make sense. And you have this.
And then I walk out of the room
and
I slam the door in their face.
So slam the door in
and
their
they
face.
get them to think about that, for a little bit.
But what you've done in a very non-threatening way is to say, have you thought about this? I don't know, you probably have covered it already. But if you did this, this, and this, does that perhaps solve the problem?
Right.
And I remember when you started Fungi Media, probably one of our first interactions, I brought you in with 2 scientists and we were trying to figure something out.
Yeah.
And you went up to the whiteboard and you stood in between these 2 guys and I was standing in the back taking notes. And you were kind of telling them what they were trying to do in a very simplified way. And both of them were scratching their heads thinking, we couldn't have said that, so we needed you to say that for us.
Sure.
And now, yes, we get it. So our customers will get it. Main thing.
Right.
Okay.
So translating that.
So there's some good stories. I'll give you one that didn't happen so well. So I was working with a very large firm in Chicago, and the account person that I had, unbeknownst to me, had another client as well that they were responsible for. Called her, needed to talk about something, and I get this voice message. I'm out of the office this week. It was Monday. I'll return your call next week. When I return, I'm with client X.
Interesting. Wow.
Yes, it was exactly. And I thought, I didn't know.
Yeah.
And boy, do I feel like,
obviously.
I'm not important in this situation. And needless to say, when the year was up and that contract was over, they were gone.
So that's all it took. Was it only that moment, or was it kind of that moment? Was it?
It was building, but it was a situation where there were a lot of things that were coming, and this was a culmination of it. Like, okay, we're paying for this time of these people, and one of the key ones is not here when me, director, is asking for something.
Sure. Yeah.
So that was
a lot of your experiences on the service, the account management side, right?
Yes,
service, how you're being serviced.
Correct.
Has it ever been a good or bad experience where it's more on the creative side or the execution side? Or is it usually the account side and the service side?
So let me give you another bad example. So we had this situation, and then you could say, we're paying for all this stuff. And monthly, when I get the invoice, I say to myself, are they worth it? And sometimes you'll say, no, they are not.
You just know because of what you've been seeing.
Exactly. Is it?
And the dollar amount and the level of creative is not matching up.
Your job as the vendor to us, you're the client, is to make my job easy. Take away the friction, solve my pain points, solve my problems, right? That's why we're hiring you. So in a case, a couple of times with one agency, they were bringing creative forward that missed the mark.
Yeah.
And I would look at it, whether it was one of my managers that had the project, then I would look at it, go back to the brief. Not what the brief says. This is not what we asked for.
Right.
And the creatives, the directors, would fight and argue. This is great creative. We have put a ton of effort into this. And I said, I'm sure you have, but, and then it becomes a very tense situation. And I think some of the agency people can feel a little too empowered to argue and fight with the client.
Sure.
I mean, healthy dialogue is good. Let's engage in a conversation. And I would say, I can speak for our customers who are going to see this. They are not going to understand what you're trying to get across. And one of the situations, the creative, they were fighting so hard, we came to an agreement, let's put it in front of customers and do market research. We did. Guess what happened? It bombed. It bombed.
I was going to say, I thought it was going to do really well.
No, it bombed.
It didn't. Okay. Yeah.
Now, they're like, okay, well, we'll go to the second creative we created. You missed it all in all 3 executions you brought to us.
Yeah.
Because they just wanted to use what they had. They didn't want to put any more time into it. And jokingly, a few times I've said with my own team, it looks like they worked on this yesterday and brought it in today. That's the last thing you want from an agency.
Right.
Be thoughtful. Understand us, our customers, what the problem that you're trying to solve and communicate, and do a really good job at it. That's how you'll keep our business.
Going from this sort of big agencies of record, which is the kind of the traditional model. That model's been around for a while. I think a lot of people think of like Mad Men almost when they think about that, but it's become a lot more fragmented. I mean, that model isn't the same as it used to be. You see a lot of agencies that are more like industry specific, or like in terms of like a vertical
Special
alignment.
Yeah.
You see some that are sort of like this horizontal, this unique problem set. Is it making it harder for clients to figure out what the right agency mix is?
I would say it truly depends on the client and what the overall corporate structure is, how they look at it, how big they are, how large their marketing team is.
Right.
I'm of the belief you have an agency of record, and then you have smaller agencies that can do specific tasks that are on the cutting edge of what's going on out there.
Yeah.
What the heck is AI going to do for us, in marketing? It's a lot of potential out there. A lot of companies are looking at that. How can we take advantage of it? So I think, like your company, for example, has such a great niche in that what you do. And, there's others out there that might be doing experiential marketing or events.
Right.
Very important. Different model than what the agency of record wants to offer.
All right. So Mark, I asked you to prepare a short list of do's and don'ts, agency do's, agency don'ts. Let's rapid fire. What are the do's and don'ts?
Okay. And these would apply to any agency.
Okay.
So number one, learn the client's business as well or better than employee. You never know when you might be offered a job from the client.
Oh, okay.
I have done that in the past.
You've offered a job for an agency person. And did they accept?
Two of them, yes.
Okay.
And one asked me, hire me when you can.
Must have been a good one.
Don't. Do not create unrealistic timelines or budgets. No client wants to be surprised with, we couldn't do it in that time frame or within that amount.
It's the under-promise, over-deliver.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, so when interacting with the client, always make sure that you're intently listening to them. You have their full attention. You're not distracted with other things. Treat them like they are your only client.
Okay.
My world is to fulfill yours.
But it's okay to have other clients.
It's okay.
But just treat them like
Don't make them, yes.
They're the only ones.
Never mention that other client.
Got it.
Okay. So then a don't is, I've seen this a lot of times, is don't come prepared to like wing it at a meeting.
Okay.
Come prepared, have your notes, be able to be, a productive contributor to the meeting, and do what you're going to say afterwards.
I mean, I always think that it's so weird. Like, let's have a check-in, and then we'll just figure it out when we get there. Versus like, thinking through the process, right? Like, if even on the agency side, like, what is the outcome of this meeting? Like, what needs to happen this week so that we can achieve the outcome, and then work backwards. What's the agenda? Who should be there? Who should not be there? So
actually, one that I would put on the list that I didn't put on my list. Don't go to a meeting without an agenda and objectives. Are we making decisions in this meeting, or are you just informing me of something? Don't waste my time. I won't waste yours. Let's respect it.
Love it.
Okay. This is an important one. Any agency, anywhere. Manage the internal agency resources for the client's benefit.
Okay.
So what does that mean? Articulate what the client needs.
That's what I was going to say.
And do it like the client is sitting there telling them.
Okay.
Don't let the creatives snowball you and say, we know what the client needs. We know better than you.
You're talking about like the account person in this particular moment.
You're sitting in those meetings with us. Bring that story back because I want the good results then coming from them.
Because I think in this case, the client services person, account person really is the advocate of the client, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's a hat you got to wear in both rooms when you're with the client and when you're with your team.
So then the flip side of that is don't bring back bad creative to the client. And don't call me the day before and say it's not going to come tomorrow when we expected it.
Right. Yeah. Well, that goes back to the overpromise, the underpromise, overdeliver thing.
Exactly.
Right? Got to manage expectations, which I think that's important too. Is like, you can't be all things to all people, and the account person needs to do a good job, just like in any relationship, managing expectations. Not everything's a yes. If you're saying you're going to do something and you're not doing it, that's something that happens over and over again. That's not good for anybody.
So think of it this way, Matt, if we were switched and you were the client and I was your agency person, you expect to be treated a certain way and get certain service from them.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
It's service, it's the product that you deliver or service that you're delivering, which is essentially creative or content. You give me a budget and an estimate, I agree to it, and then we'll pay you for that work. And we keep the relationship ongoing. And if things work well, that'll happen for many, many, many years.
Right.
Fall short on some of those, probably the creative and the account services, or all of a sudden if maybe you got a little heavy-handed in estimating and all of a sudden our costs are going way up, where we would notice that difference. It's like, this used to cost this, and now it's costing this.
What happened?
What happened?
Yeah.
But those are ways of basic ways of working together, and we can keep the relationships going for long periods of time, which is in everybody's benefit.
It takes like one negative thing to ruin like 10 positive things.
Absolutely.
So it's like that one mistake or hiccup or issue or letting that thing slip through the cracks. It's unfortunate, but that's just the way humans work. I mean, we remember the negative over the positive, and that's just how it is. So I always remember this concept of the emotional bank account. Are you making way more deposits, hopefully, into that emotional bank account, our relationship, our client agency relationship, or are you withdrawing more than you should,
And what do people typically remember is either a really good experience or a really bad? It's easier to remember the bad. We tend to go as humans to the negative things. When you asked me to put my list together, I started with the negatives first.
It was all don'ts.
Yeah. And then it's like, I better put some positives in here. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that concludes our do's and don'ts list for agencies with Mark Joseph. Mark, thank you so much for being on our show, sharing your perspective. I think I have a better idea of what to do and what not to do.
Okay. Thank you. And hopefully others will feel the same.
Yes.
Thanks, Matt.
Awesome.
Eu fango.